G'day guys, and welcome back to the Iron Hearts podcast. We are on episode 3 this week. I am Danny Bods, and this is my fiance. I like saying it's the first time I've said that.
What's up? I'm Coach Zia. How's it going?
All right, so today's episode is going to focus around mindset, around mental health, hormonal health, and how that can influence mental health in the sport of bodybuilding. However, it doesn't just pertain to bodybuilders, right?
Yeah, we're kind of focusing on the niche of bodybuilding, but it's going to kind of pertain to anyone who's really struggled with mental health, who maybe would like some guidance on how you can deal with some of the stuff that we all struggle with in terms of mental health. Because I don't know, for me at least, bodybuilding is a safe place to kind of like get some of those mental health struggles out, but at the same time, it kind of shines a magnifying glass on some of the darker stuff you maybe have going on upstairs. So I think it's important to kind of tie them together, but you don't have to be a bodybuilder for this to be relevant to you.
Yeah, and then also on the hormonal health part, I know everyone, I mean, it's all over social media. So whether you are a bodybuilder or not, if you are approaching that age where hormone health is, in your conversations with friends, then, this is also relevant to you. So we just wanted to make that clear that it's not just for people who are crazy bodybuilders. And I say crazy because sometimes we are crazy.
Yeah, and we'll relate it to the sport of bodybuilding, but we're also kind of talk a little bit about how it pertains to general health. Maybe if you're someone who's interested in hormone replacement therapy, maybe you want to learn more about it. Maybe you think you're a candidate for it. Maybe you aren't, but we're going to kind of address some of that today because I think almost every issue that comes up in the gym seems to be blamed on hormones these days. So I think it's important to be able to distinguish what's hormonal and what's environmental and situational, and maybe just ties back to maybe just getting your systems and processes together rather than just assuming, oh yeah, it's my cortisol's high, or something. That's my favorite.
It's always easier to blame it on a hormone, I feel like.
Well, it's easy to blame it on anything except for your own lack of accountability, isn't it? At the end of the day, so people aren't going to like that, but that's the reality. People love to blame a cortisol imbalance or whatever. Insert excuse here, but once you've addressed all the underlying things that could potentially be causing your consistent failure and you're still seeing issues, then okay, maybe then at that point you can be like, all right, by process of elimination, maybe we've arrived at the fact that there's a hormonal imbalance, but there's other things to consider first, I think, as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you focus on really well as a coach, with your clients is around mindset. It's something I think getting better at in terms of having a better understanding, just, in terms of coaching people from all facets of life, and they have different, obstacles or barriers or challenges or whatever you want to call them. But, and we hear about mindset all the time, right? That it's kind of the foundation of achieving any goal, whether it's bodybuilding or anything else, right? I think having the right mindset is something that's kind of critical to your success, but I know you've kind of delved more into this area. So what would you say in terms of mindset when it comes to achieving a goal that you've set out?
Well, I think the intention, or I always come back to and again, everyone talks about this, but your why, your true reasoning for why you're doing this. And we've spoken to this in a couple of the previous episodes about how your why and your reasoning behind why you're doing something is so important. And, we've talked about it in regards to contest prep and bodybuilding and what that means to us and what it means to a lot of competitors. But whether you're a bodybuilder or you're someone who's simply just trying to improve yourself or maybe pull yourself out of a rut, or maybe you've gained some weight, or maybe you're at a point in your life, you're at a crossroads where you're thinking, I really don't like how I look. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I'm really unhappy. I mean, this was me in the past, so I'm relating directly to previous experiences. I'm sure Danny can relate as well. You kind of hit that crossroads, and it's like, okay, there's two paths I can take. The path of continued, essentially self-destruction, which is, you're doing things that don't align with your long-term mental and physical health. Or you say enough's enough, and I really want to make a change. And your why has to be really strong, because when you can be motivated for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but your why will reinforce your discipline because you're going to show up even when you don't want to. Motivation is like a passing thing, whereas discipline, which is something that is kind of built and structured around your entire life and what you actually want to achieve, that's what's really crucial. So tying your why back to everything is probably the most important thing. And you have to have a really strong why. Some people's why just isn't strong enough yet. They haven't reached that breaking point. For me, I hit a breaking point and I said, never again. I'm never going to be back at this place again. I'm going to find a way to forge forward and be a better version of myself. And it was never about beating other people. I know in the context of bodybuilding, we're like, got to be the best on stage, got to have an awesome prep, got to win the pro card, all these other things. But it ultimately comes down to, are you a better version of yourself than you were yesterday? And if you can say yes to that, then I think you're ahead of probably 90% of people out there, because a lot of people are just playing the comparison game. We'll talk about the comparison game later, but I think it really just comes down to your why, and your mindset really has to tie into why your why is important, I think.
And I think that discipline is also a practice, right? It's not as if you just decide one day, or even if you have a strong why, I mean, discipline is a practice. So each time you don't feel motivated and you have to pull discipline out of the bag, it is a practice, and it does get easier. And it's not going to be easy all the time. I mean, I've been doing this for, over 15 years, and even I still struggle sometimes to be like, I said it the other day, like, I am not motivated to go to the gym at all. But I know, and he knows that if I go, and I needed to go, that I would feel better in the end. And yeah, it's just kind of like, it relates to the mindset, right? So when you are in those moments, just remembering why you're doing this in the first place and why this goal is important to you. But also just being self-aware to recognize when you're just having can we swear on this podcast? I don't know, fuck it moment.
You can totally swear. We're going to just be however we want to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like, and I, my clients as well, like, I had a fuck it moment. I'm like, okay, cool. At least, recognize it, take ownership of it. But then next time that those same emotions or feeling, whatever creeps up, like, stop it before you have that fuck it moment.
Yeah, don't let a fuck it moment turn into a fuck it week, month, quarter, because then you're really setting yourself back, and then it's really hard to pull yourself back, because you have to reinstate all of those habits and the structure around what you're trying to achieve.
I just thought of something. Yeah, I was like, I just remember this, and I guess it's an analogy that I give to people. It's like, if you're driving in your car and you accidentally hit your car, you're like, oh, damn, I hit my car. You're not going to continuously keep hitting it or hit it again the week after because it's already been hit. I think of it that way, as in your body is the car. Is that a good analogy? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to constantly keep ruining the car and making it worse because it's already been hit once. So that's kind of how I think about it when I have a day where and people do this all the time. Like, they'll overeat over their calories for the day, and they're like, well, I've already screwed it, so what's the difference? Let me just go, balls to the wall and just eat like an asshole for the rest of the day.
Yeah, just like, that's very common particularly in bodybuilding, because we're very all or nothing sometimes. There's this, okay, well, I've messed up this one thing, which means the entire house of cards now needs to come down.
Right.
Bodybuilding can be a very unbalanced and very extreme sport. Well, it is an extreme sport. And sure, when you're on prep, things need to be adhered to. But when you're, not on prep, there has to be some balance. And again, tying it back to everyone, not just bodybuilders, if you're on a weight loss journey and you've dropped like 50 pounds and you say, maybe you haven't had a diet break in a while and you maybe binge and gain 3 pounds back, you're not just going to throw in the towel and just give up there, because you've already seen progress. I mean, it's... maybe it isn't 50 pounds, maybe it's 10 pounds, but you just have to remind yourself to get back up on the horse and remember why you started, which pulls it back to the why. And just like when you're going into a gym or you're learning a new skill, it's a skill of repetition. Sticking through that structure and continuing to show up is a skill of repetition. It's consistency. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, consistency is your greatest tool out of anything, out of knowledge, out of all of the diet and fat burners and workouts. All of these other things mean nothing unless you're consistent in them. So if you can at least even if you can't be 100% all the time, and we don't preach 100% adherence all the time, we're kind of like 80-20 with a lot of individuals, and unless you're on comp prep, exactly, because it's at that point it's a competition. But with someone who's maybe in a lifestyle phase, and they're trying to drop body fat, gain a bit of muscle, just feel better in their skin, sometimes it might be 75-25. Sometimes it might be 50-50 because you have life, you have kids, you have commitments, you have school, you have a job that just demands so much that you can't get your 4 sessions of cardio your 4 sessions of cardio in, or maybe you can't get your 5 resistance training or 4 resistance training sessions in a week, so you just do 3. But that is better than saying, I missed my Monday session, so you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around for the rest of the week and just not go to the rest of it, because then a tiny blip becomes a complete derailment, and it takes you weeks to get back to where you were before.
And it's so interesting because, I mean, so last week I was traveling to Denver for work, and I kind of mentioned this on Instagram this week, but you know, it's crazy how when you are someone who is, you know, usually active, which I am. I mean, I work from home majority of the week. I'm in the office like twice a week where I'm sitting and sedentary, but you know, having to be in a or corporate like training and being sitting down for majority of the day, it was not only did I feel more lethargic, I was just like I looked tired. Someone even said, "Oh, you look tired." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks." I hate when people say that.
I love that.
Why do people tell you, like, I know I'm tired. I don't need you to tell me I look tired. But anyway.
Have you seen that meme of it's like the old guy who's got like the fixed grin with the cup of tea, you know,
No.
I'll show you.
You have to show me.
A few people know what meme I'm talking about, but it's like when you've been having a really good week and then someone tells you look tired. And he's just like yeah.
Why?
A lot of people are going to know what I'm referencing.
Okay, maybe we can flash it up.
Yeah. I'll bring it up
now
on
I need
screen.
to see that. But it's the worst thing to be told you look tired. But yeah, like having, you know, being at this training and just sitting down for so long in the day and just being sedentary, you know, you think you're seating, you rested, then you have all this energy. It's a complete opposite. I was absolutely so tired. And then when I came back, I was even like, I wasn't as motivated to work out because I'd just been a blob for 3 days and I'd been eating, you know, off-plan meals. And I say off-plan because it was catered for, you know, during lunch, and then we went out for dinners. And I mean, I don't drink alcohol, so that's fine. But still, you know, imagine if I was drinking alcohol as well. Like I felt like I had a hangover.
And the folks that you're with, they were also going to like almost like social mixers after all of the other stuff. Like I think I remember.
No, they went to a dinner. I skipped the dinner on the second night, so there was a planned dinner, which I just said, I'm sorry, like I need to go to sleep. It was 7 o'clock, and I'm like, I went to bed at 7:30 p.m. and I slept for like 9 hours. It was and.
I don't know how people in the corporate world do that. I can understand for periods of your career, but for like 40 plus years to do that. And we're wondering why people are leaving or retiring from their corporate jobs and just dying 2 years later or 3 years later, or not even getting to enjoy their retirement. You know, it's really, there needs to be a shift. I don't know if there will, because the work culture in the US is so extreme, but the thing is, like, no one's really going to help you if you're in that situation. You have to help yourself. You have to make the decision to really take control of your health and fitness, because no one's going to do it for you. And you do have an uphill battle if you're in a corporate job, but you know, you owe it to yourself and to the people in your life to do that, in my opinion. I mean, I know it's not easy for many of us, but it's so crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think also
if you want to live a fulfilling life, you know?
Yeah, but I think also going back to the whole, if you have a corporate job, like, you know, it's okay to say no to stuff. It's okay to have boundaries up if you have other priorities. So, you know, it was expected that I went to that dinner that night because it was a prefix. They had already made the booking. You know, I mean, I was the client on the client side, so it would have been probably different if it was the other way around. But still, you know, I was just like, I'm really sorry, but I know my body and I need to rest, because I'm just, you know, I'm not going to make it tomorrow otherwise. And I hadn't had my workout in for that day. I was at, I think, 4,000 steps by the end of the day, which is just unheard of for me. They were laughing at me because I was literally pacing up and down while we were waiting. After the training finished, we were waiting for an Uber. So I was pacing up and down the street just while we waited for the Uber. And they're looking at me like, what is this chick doing? I'm like, I'm trying to get some steps in. I've literally been sitting for so long. It was like anxiety almost, because I'd just been seated for so long. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, like, it is okay to say no to stuff. People are going to forget about it the next day. I promise you, you're not going to be that missed at the dinner.
Yeah, I do think, just to maybe challenge it a tiny bit, there are some companies where the culture is very much like just flies in the face of that. You know, if you're lucky enough to be at a company where people understand that, then it's great. But there are some roles where it's probably going to make you unpopular. People are going to judge you. You know, people are going to be like,
who cares?
I know who cares. I get what I'm saying, but
who cares?
But for some people, it's, you know, it's just tearing that Band-Aid off, so to speak. But anyway, at the risk of us talking about the corporate world forever, I guess we should move on to the next topic, right? So, because we can talk about that a lot.
We can. Maybe that's another episode to help people who work in corporate and how to navigate that. Next episode, maybe.
Yeah. And again, to bring it all around, and we'll keep referencing this, like, it really does come down to your mindset. Like, is it more important to you to go out and, you know, maybe have a little bit of a social gathering with your colleagues? You know, you have to pick and choose, but it really does come down to what's more important. That, you know, you reach your objective, whether it's physique or health or fitness, whatever it is. If you want to lower your cholesterol, whatever it is, if it's like you're trying to improve longevity, you have to come back to what is more important and what is the priority at the end of the day. So,
100%. Okay. So I guess in the topic of mindset, another one that probably is very prevalent in the bodybuilding world is body image. In terms of, I actually saw this funny meme the other day. It's like, teach someone to lift and they will, lift for a week or something, and, or give someone body dysmorphia and they'll lift for a lifetime.
It is. It is kind of like that.
Yeah. And again, I think especially in the bodybuilding competitor world, competitor world is probably more obvious because we have, off-season physique versus being, shredded during a prep. Well,
I would also argue that in the competitive bodybuilding world, the criteria for many divisions is so subjective that people are trying endlessly to fit into that criteria, even though they may never match the criteria. And that's also fueling a little bit of that body dysmorphia, because they're like, well, I need to match this criteria. Maybe their structure just doesn't allow for that. Or maybe they match the criteria and they just don't get placed fairly. Yeah. And they think, oh, that's because my physique isn't good enough. But this is, again, why I'm tying it back to this idea that you should always be trying to improve based upon how you were yesterday, not compare yourself to other individuals,
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, off-season versus prep, I mean, I think maybe the philosophy is kind of changing a little bit now, but I think that the age of the bulk, the dirty bulk, is kind of going away now. There's two sides to this. There's this argument like you can main gain by having like this tiny little surplus, and that's going to be productive. It's probably not. And then there's the other argument, which is the other extreme, which is like you got to bulk, you got to put on like a lot of weight in order to drive strength up. And I could get into the science as to why that also isn't sensible, but I'm not going to right now. But ultimately, because we'll be here for like 2 hours. But ultimately, the correct balance, it seems to be, is trying to push yourself into a little bit of a surplus, not get sloppy, not get so fat that your health metrics plummet, and that you're getting gas going up and down your cardiovascular health, you're going up and down the stairs and you're just like huffing and puffing, trying to find that balance between the two. And when you adopt that kind of strategy, and we adopt this a lot with our clients, is we put them in a slight surplus, nothing crazy. They're oftentimes actually quite happy with how they're looking, regardless of whether they're in they're trying to lean out or massing phase, because all they're really doing is gaining almost imperceptible amounts of fat when compared to. I mean, we've all done the dirty bulk at some point, or just had a bit of a rough time of maybe eating a little bit more than we should, and realizing, oh damn, now I have to mini cut before I can actually do a proper bulk. But I think a lot of people get in their heads, even if they see the scale go up a couple of pounds. I mean, speak to your clients, because you've had a few like this. So
I mean, I used to be like this. I think in the beginning of my bodybuilding career, when I first competed and I got shredded, like I defs had body dysmorphia, because I look back at photos where I remember in that moment I felt fat, and it sounds stupid, but it's the truth. So I remember looking at photos, and I'm in a bikini and I look great. I was just like, but I remember in that moment hating how I looked, like legit hating how I looked and not feeling comfortable, because I got so lean, I shredded, had 6-pack abs for the first time, and then I went to, I would say what I looked just normal, I still look great, but I remember at that time just not feeling good about myself at all, and always trying to get back to to getting lean. But again, I was kind of all over the place mentally. But I think I've gone through, and this is years and years and years ago. Now I'm much older and wiser, and I can appreciate my body in both off season and on prep. You know what I mean? Like now I'm sitting at like what 13 pounds over my stage weight from July. And yeah, I'm like, I have no issues with how I look right now. I'm not feeling like, oh, I miss my abs or being self-conscious or anything like that, like I used to be in the past, for sure.
Yeah, we also haven't allowed body fat accumulate. Like, that's not 13 pounds of body fat, just to be clear. We haven't allowed body fat accumulation.
I mean, I'm still at 12% body fat, but still.
Yeah, and that's, again, the key to having a balanced reverse. A lot of people just lose emotional self-control. That's another conversation entirely.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you can be patient transitioning from phases where you're a little bit leaner to where you need to gain a bit of body fat in order to drive training performance, or whatever the phase you're transitioning from, if you can be a little bit more patient and allow the results to come in a little bit slower, it also gives you that mental clarity on like, oh, okay, like this is just like a couple of pounds of maybe glycogen in my muscles and maybe some water retention. Maybe I'm just a little bit more full because I have a full belly because I've had a little bit more food. It's really important to recognize the difference between that and, oh man, I went overboard for 2 weeks and I'm, 12 pounds up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which even then, that isn't all fat, but you
but
continue
still,
to
don't want to do that.
you continue to eat like that for like a few more weeks and a few more weeks, and before you know it, you've blown through your entire massing timeline, and you have to, as I said before, do a mini cut in order to actually do a productive massing phase. It's not the way to go. So,
but just to go back to the question that you asked me earlier, so what I tell my clients who struggle with this, or what I even tell myself in the past when I struggle with this, is, you know, during my off season when I'm not in a competition prep, I always say like, focus on what your body can do and not what it looks like, because
that's such a good point.
And that's how I reframe it. I'm like, okay, I am able to lift like heavier. This is in turn going to build muscle. This is in turn going to make me look better next year. And, you know, the goal is always to come back to that stage or to that next cut. If you're not going on stage, come back to that next, dieting phase and look like you've actually built some muscle, right? So, and in order to do that, there are steps that you need to take. So it's kind of like, that's how I reframe it. So I think, and I always tell my clients, like, don't worry about what you look like. Focus on what you can do, what your body allows you to do. And also I mean, this is going to sound stupid as well, but like, I thank my body in my head. I don't think that's stupid. I don't say it out loud, but like after a boxing class or a yoga class, like I always give my body thanks for allowing me to move, because it is a gift that we can give. So I can't get into that practice of gratitude and thanking myself and thanking my body. And
I don't think that's stupid at all.
I think so.
I think I think if we did that a little bit more, I mean, practicing gratitude is so important in all respects. But
and how you speak to yourself is important too, you know?
How often do we hear about people our age who have just suddenly developed these debilitating cognitive or physical ailments that, you know, they can't even drive themselves to a doctor's appointment anymore. I mean, I just can't even imagine. So thanking your body, I mean, even if it seems like cheesy to do so, I don't know. I think it's...
Yeah, I mean, I do it after every class. But yeah, so where I was going with that is just reframe your mind. And the other thing I always say to people is just like, buy bigger pants. Stop trying to fit into your prep pants.
Yeah, I live in oversized clothing regardless of my season, because I just don't even want to worry about it.
I can guarantee you girls have a fat pants and a prep pants.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I've heard as such.
I always just buy it. Yeah, I literally I'll move stuff like, okay, these are the tights or the leggings I only wear during prep, and then these are the ones that I wear when I'm on off season, and it just makes you feel better, because there's nothing. It feels terrible when something's cutting into you. It's uncomfortable.
And just to bring it back around to something that you said, that there are steps you have to take in order to make your physique more competitive. Or I mean, again, I'm not even trying to tie it back to competition. Even if I wasn't a bodybuilder, a competitive bodybuilder, to look back at 3 or 4 years ago, you remember when we met and I was roughly the same weight I am now, 220 pounds.
I recall.
And I was, shall we say, a little bit more rotund around the midsection and a little bit, I mean, you can just see it in my face. Look at all photos, and I look like Jabba the Hutt in some photos. Okay, maybe it isn't that bad, but I was just softer, and a lot has changed in those years.
Chubby face.
Yeah, I definitely had a chubby face. It's all right though; she dug it, so it's fine.
Still here.
But in any case, to look back and see, okay, I'm a similar weight, but I have a drastically different body composition. Right. That would not have happened if I hadn't committed to a slow, steady surplus and losing some, because I had, fat loss phases in between where I was obviously, dramatically more cut than I am right now. But if I was just married to being that lean all the time,
Yeah.
I would never have gotten to this body composition at 100 kg, 220 pounds. Do you get what I'm saying? So I had to go through those steps. So being able to, suffer for the short term and take a bit of a hit to the ego,
and just be uncomfortable, feel uncomfortable for a little while,
And-
if that's how it makes you feel,
And you
which it
can-
does for a lot of people.
and you can plan it intelligently. Like if you know that like it's going to be colder months and you don't want to be in, you're not going to be in a bikini, that's a good time to mask
Good time
because
to
you
be in
don't
off-season,
have to
isn't it?
worry about, exactly. Now during the winter months when, no one's
Yeah.
out in swimsuits, and then as the summer starts to come around, if you have this expectation that you're going to be around people and be in swimsuits and you're like already self-conscious about it, maybe time to reverse and like head into a fat loss phase. But that's okay. It's okay to go through these phases where you're not shredded. And to tell you the truth, I love when I'm not shredded because I'm strong as hell. You know what I mean? I can lift like crazy. I can go out to dinner with you pretty much whenever I want.
Yeah.
So,
That's fun. And the other thing is that no one cares but you. Like no one gives a shit, to be honest, whether you're shredded or not.
No.
Your friends aren't friends with you because you have a six-pack. So,
no, definitely not.
it's your own battle, mental battle, and I think it's just like I said, thank your body for what it could do and focus on that. And
You versus you.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. I mean, these are certain things that you have to do in order to progress. So
Yeah.
just do them
And this
let
is
it go.
and this is it's good that we both have this understanding because it keeps us grounded through whether we're in a fat loss phase, a massing phase, things like that. And right now we're actually aligned on the same
For the
phase, which
first
is
time
nice.
in 4 years.
normally Danny's on prep and I'm massing.
This
And,
is my first time that I haven't been prepping through the fall, and I'm loving it because I have just been eating all the Trader Joe's fall things that I've usually missed out on.
Yeah.
And Buffin Muffins.
Oh,
Not that
those
this
are-
is an ad for Buffin
Those
Muffins.
are pretty good. Those are pretty
Sponsor
good.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My assistant coach put us onto those, and
Yeah.
they're awesome.
Yep. Let's move on to the next part, which I think is a huge one for everybody, whether you're a bodybuilder or not, is around hormonal health. And it's, something that's been in the media a lot lately. There's, I feel like, HRT clinics popping up everywhere. There's all these new peptide stores and new peptides coming out. And I think it's information overload sometimes and can be hard to decipher what's what. My advice is just call Aryan because he knows everything.
Yeah, I'm by no means an authority, but I at least, have a pretty in-depth understanding of a lot of the stuff that's being touted as like a miracle drug. And the bottom line is that many of the individuals who are asking me about peptides, they have other things they need to correct first before they start TRT. And, this is what I kind of wanted to speak to because I brought it up at the beginning of the podcast was, a lot of people think they need HRT or they need, replacement therapy for a specific hormone. Many of the individuals who think that they need that are not doing, even half of the 20 prerequisite things that you should have in place before you even, consider HRT. Because if you're only getting 4 hours of sleep a night, if you're drinking alcohol multiple times per week, if you're in a stressful environment at work or in your relationship or insert situation here with family, if you're eating garbage food, the list goes on and on. You're not getting enough sunlight, sleep. You're not covering your micronutrient deficiencies. Like the list goes on and on. You shouldn't even be thinking about. You can get blood work and it'll say, these specific hormones are.
Normal.
Well, sometimes they'll say normal, sometimes they'll say low, sometimes they'll say on the lower end. But my advice would always be try to correct this stuff naturally if you can before hopping on TRT. Unless you're of a certain age where, you're actually, maybe pre or perimenopausal or,
and
maybe.
You've done all the things, and you do it like I was.
Yeah.
I was already doing all the things.
Yeah,
so.
Danny didn't start TRT until she was in her 40s, you know what I mean? A lot of people are hopping on, really, really early without correcting a lot of the things that affect these things first. The amount of young guys in my DMs who, they're not even in their 20s yet, they're still in their teens, that hit me up and they're asking me about anabolic cycles. I'm like, dude, your endocrine system isn't even fully formed yet.
Right.
You want to shut off your fertility, and the list goes on and on. But in any case, I think it's important to realize that there's things that you can correct with supplementation and lifestyle interventions without immediately hopping on an HRT protocol.
Yeah.
And there's a very big difference as well between HRT and performance-enhancing drug use. There's
Yes.
two clear
separate
distinctions there.
things, people.
You know, there's a bit of crossover there when it comes to TRT, but it's not the same thing. And I think a lot of people get this mixed up.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people who don't necessarily have the education in HRT assume that testosterone is just an anabolic steroid. It's not. It's a bioidentical hormone. If you use it within the reference ranges, then it's safe to use. It's when you're pushing it super physiological that the risks show up. I mean, it's really important to delineate or draw a line between those two things initially, I think. There's obviously safer use PEDs for females. I've spoken at length about this in some of our other short form content, but you're always going to want to go with non-androgenic compounds first. Androgenic compounds are the ones that are going to be more likely to cause virilization. The clue is in the name, androgenic. So, testosterone replacement therapy is fine if it's kept within the reference range, but I wouldn't immediately go to what most people do, which is Anavar or Primo. You know, I would look at, thyroid replacement, injectable L-carnitine, growth hormone, clenbuterol. These are all compounds that can be used relatively safely within a certain context. I mean,
for a competition prep,
primarily. I'm sure there are people who aren't ever going to compete who are using these compounds, but there's safer use frameworks you can use without risking virilization at all. And if you're not planning to make a real run at competing or a career out of it, I think that would be the most sensible approach for you. I can't speak to the competitive requirements, beyond that, because honestly, getting up to even the national level, you're probably in most divisions going to need some degree of anabolic support to compete with some of these athletes. That's just, I hate the way that it is that way. Maybe not so in bikini. Bikini, I think you can still, if you're really, really genetically, in the elite, you can probably turn pro naturally, but it's getting harder and harder as time goes on because, a rising tide lifts all ships, the requirements of the division. I mean, if you look at what bikini used to be compared to what it is now, these girls are jacked. I know a lot of people like to shit on bikini because it's just, it's not the most muscular division, but I don't know if you've seen how muscular some of these pros are. I mean, it's pretty impressive. So yeah, just my 2 cents. I'm not going to talk about Fit Model, but, in regards to...
I know you really want to do that.
Yeah, I know. That's another conversation, but I just think I've spoken to this before. I think it's just a means for the NPC and the IFBB to make money. Fit Model, honestly, I don't,
So I think on the topic of HRT and how it affects mental health, well, we've had a bit of a week. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I guess, and this is something I've spoken about before, so some people may or may not know, but, and a lot of women, I think, probably deal with this, but during, my luteal phase, I am sad, I'm depressed, low motivation, tired, all those things, right? And it's usually, I think the sadness kicks in around like 10 days, 12 to 10 days out of my period. And so I was thinking, well, if I start progesterone, maybe that will help with some of this, feeling sad throughout that luteal phase. So I started taking progesterone about 3.5 weeks ago now. Yeah,
and just to preface this, Danni didn't just decide suddenly just to take progesterone thinking it was like we did the research, and some report having less heightened emotional volatility during the luteal phase with supplementation of bioidentical progesterone.
Correct.
Not all women do, and obviously you're going to speak to that, but just so you know, it wasn't just like, oh, let's just throw progesterone in and see what happens. That's not, how we do anything, but yeah, continue.
So anyway, and again, with progesterone, I tried it ages ago. I don't really remember how long I took it for then, to be honest, but
It was about the same amount of time as this time.
Okay. So anyway, long story long. So I've been feeling just kind of, I just haven't been feeling myself. And, obviously Arian's very in tune and aware of who I am and what I'm like normally. Mm-hmm. And even he said something the other day, and I wasn't saying anything because I honestly just didn't know how to explain it, because I just was feeling, I wasn't feeling really. I was just kind of almost numb, and I was really finding it really hard to focus. And I was telling him I just feel really overwhelmed and almost like this feeling of anxiety, which I've never felt before.
None of these things are typical for Danni. She's normally very happy and upbeat. Yeah. She's never I've seen you manage projects that would literally make me want to rip the house in half because I'm just not as good at multiple moving pieces as you are. But like the stuff that I was like, this isn't the type of stuff that would normally overwhelm you.
Yeah, and
know?
I was telling Ari, I was just like, I feel really anxious and I don't know why. And that's weird for me because like I've never felt anxiety before, and my heart goes out to anyone who actually has to deal with anxiety on a regular basis because it is not fun.
I was worried it was me. I was like, what have I done?
Yeah, and then obviously he gets in his, which, to be, obviously, I should say obviously, but yeah, I think that's a natural thing to think, like, for the other partner to be like, well, what have I done?
It's because it was like all of a sudden, you know what I mean? I was like, what the heck is going on here? You know what I mean? And I think it's just normal to, when you notice a sudden shift in your partner's energy, to be concerned,
that you've done something.
That I've done something or said something or, but continue.
Yeah, so anyway, he kind of brought it up the other day and I just started crying for no reason whatsoever. Well, not for no reason. I felt sad again for no reason, but then also felt bad because, obviously I didn't want him to get in his head about it. But we did some further research on it, and it was interesting, like people who... So I was taking... So progesterone... you're really supposed to cycle it. So taking it just during your luteal phase. So like starting day 12 or 14 of your menstrual cycle. But I was just taking it throughout my current, follicular phase, which is what I'm in now. And yeah, my progesterone was too high in my follicular phase and what it should have been. But because I did my blood work the other week, and we, kind of looked at the results and did some, research. And yeah, it turns out if you are somebody who suffers through PMDD or issues through your luteal phase, that taking progesterone may actually worsen those symptoms and give you anxiety and make you feel emotional. What was it? Emotional numbness.
Flatness.
Flatness. That's what it was, because I've been flat.
It basically I guess like from a brain chemistry standpoint, what it referred to was you are hypersensitive or basically progesterone works almost like... It
increases the GABA receptors or something like that, right?
Yeah, it basically increases like, is it GABAergic?
I just call it GABA.
Yeah, it basically increases the response in your...
Too much.
In your brain to the types of things that, normally for only during your luteal phase, like anxiety, things like that, they just get like cranked up, and she was obviously taking it the whole month. So it's basically like a month-long period. So hooray for me, that was wonderful. But in any case, now that we've identified it, what we're thinking, well, obviously we're just going to pull you off it.
I'm just going to pull it, which, I didn't take it last night.
And then maybe potentially after a couple of months of you just getting back to baseline, we reintroduce it at a lower dose around your luteal phase and see if it improves symptomology. If it doesn't, then it's just...
But it doesn't. I'd rather deal with the luteal phase, to be honest, because this just feels terrible. So, again, hormones can affect your mental health, and sometimes you don't even know what's going on until someone else points it out to you, and you're like, holy shit, yeah, I have been feeling like that for the past 3 weeks. And I think it's when I started taking progesterone. So just be mindful, and do your research, basically.
And I guess another thing is, this was prescribed by a clinician, who's, great doctor, but her specialization was not women's HRT.
No.
So the advice, exactly. So the guidance of like, just take it throughout the, take it throughout the month, was probably not the best advice to,
But some people do. So some people can handle it, taking it throughout the month, right? Because some people take it for to help with sleep. So it can be helping with sleep. So, it doesn't affect everybody like that. But for me, and that's the other important thing to remember, right? Hormones and dosages and things affect people differently, right? So that's the other thing to keep in mind. So.
Yeah. I wonder if there's an argument for, when someone's actually menopausal to simulate the same pulsatile release of progesterone, at the amounts that would...
Perimenopausal too, yeah.
Yeah, you're basically just trying to...
Which I'm coming up on, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. She's not. She's good. I think at the risk of this podcast going on forever and ever and ever, and I'm sure this will open more dialogue as far as hormone replacement therapy and things like that, but I guess we wanted to tie it more onto the intangible mental health side of things more than anything versus like speaking to the scientific basis for some of these things, but we can delve into that if that's something you guys are interested in. But was there anything specifically that you wanted to close out on other than the stuff that we've been kind of going over?
No, I think just to sum things up, just going back to what we were talking about at the beginning is, mindset is everything. Be mindful of how you speak to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah, that's a huge one. That what is it? It's like words are spelling because they cast a spell.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
they do. Yeah. Ask and it is given.
Ask and it is given. That's Danny's favorite book.
We always talk about that. No, but just going back to what we're saying is terms of, having a strong mindset, being kind to yourself and being mindful of what you are ingesting, whether it's social media and you're feeling a certain kind of way. Like, just stop and look at your outside influences if you're not feeling your best, and just know that it is a whole. I know it sounds cliche, but it's you against you, right? So, and then if you are someone who is seeking hormone replacement therapy or interested in looking at it, just the importance of doing your research, because that can have a detrimental effect on your mental health and make things worse,
and
like I've just discovered.
And definitely don't try to treat things based on things you haven't confirmed through blood work. You need to get blood work in order to confirm that something is even happening, because what's the term, like psychosomatic, a lot of it can be triggered by environmental factors, and you can sometimes trick yourself into things that maybe are not present. I mean, we've been watching Better Call Saul, thinking about Chuck from Better Call Saul.
Oh yeah, like he thought he was allergic to electricity.
He thought it was allergic to electricity, but it's all just in his head. But I'm not saying that, that's an extreme example. Great show. I guess to piggyback off what you're saying, I mean, my mum would always tell me, because there's going to be days, obviously where things really are tough, and that's okay. And what my mum always said to me is like, it's just a bad day, not a bad life. And that's what I always try to remind myself of, just keep forging forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm. And practice gratitude.
Yeah, and I know it's hard to practice.
Sounds easy.
Coming from the other side of the coin, because again, I think Danny's definitely the optimist, whereas I'm more of the pragmatist in this relation. I don't want to say pessimist, but I'm definitely more of the pragmatic one. Sometimes it's really hard to practice gratitude. So, even if it's like you're just coming back to the same things that you're like feeling like you're lucky for, and maybe you can't think of anything in the moment, but trying to focus on the things that you are grateful for and bring that back around, it can anchor you sometimes when things feel like they're falling apart. I know it's the same for me. I mean, I just try to remind myself for the, millionth time, the things that I'm really grateful for, the people I'm really grateful for. And even though it's hard to do that sometimes, it can have a really positive effect and just kind of help you pull yourself out of the rut before you're all of a sudden in a valley and it takes you, weeks to pull yourself out of it.
Yep.
Recognize the negative self-talk and cut it off before it, giving power to those thoughts, because you give power to those negative thoughts. I mean, the brain just likes to focus on negative. It's just kind of how it's human nature. It's kind of how we process things. So you just got to force yourself out of that mindset sometimes,
Yep. And easier said than done sometimes, but it needs to be done for sure.
Yeah, it takes practice for sure. Like speaking from experience, it takes a lot of practice, but the more you do it, just like anything, the better you get at it.
Exactly.
So
all is practice. Well, thanks guys for listening or watching or
for following along. This was episode 3. Yeah, that was a bit of a longer one today, but we just kind of let things flow. So if you guys enjoyed the longer, more in-depth length, let us know. We'll, and if you have stuff you want us to go over, like I said,
topics.
we have a list of things to get through, but if you have stuff you really want us to talk about, let us know.
Yep.
You reach out to us anytime. We're pretty responsive. So
okay, bye.
That's all. Later, guys.